It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right, America, we are back. Thanks for joining with us. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I will be your host this morning. You know, if you're catching it on video, I do a little commercial break after the video stops, and for local radio, and I know I got myself in trouble with a couple of the suggestions I made. So sorry that I'm laughing, but I know I'm going to get a full email box. Anyway, I found an article this morning that I thought was very valuable. And it's on the minorityreporter.net. The gal who wrote this it's an op-ed by Providence Crowder. And, you know, I see people coming in to be interviewed from time to time on various television programs or various radio programs. I hear them. And it seems like if you are a black person in the United States of America, and I will not use the term African American. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. I'm never going to call you an Irish American. I'm never going to call you an Italian American, and I'm not going to call you a Black American, or a Native American, or an African American. I'm not doing it. You may be a Black American. That's fine. You may be an Irish American, but I'm telling you, you know. So anyway, Providence Crowder is black, and I see many individuals who are black with a conservative political viewpoint. And they come out and say, you know, I get lambasted by my own racial groups and political organizations and churches and so forth and so on for not being for being a traitor to the race and all of that nonsense. So anyway, Providence Crowder wrote this great article, and I'm just going to give you, because it's not really that long, but it's worthwhile hearing. Here's what she says. And by the way, she's a beautiful woman. She shows her picture here on the front, and she's clearly very black. I mean, you know, nobody's going to deny that she's a black gal, right? Recently, many black people have questioned my blackness. Apparently, for some, I am not black enough. But what makes the claim so bogus to me is that our biracial president has been accepted as black by the black masses, even though his mother is white, and he was tainted by he was raised by his white grandparents. I apologize. Even though his mother was white and he was raised by his white grandparent. Some people have said that what makes a person black is, quote, the struggle. What struggle, I ask? What more does Obama know about struggle than me? For a very brief time, he lived in Indonesia. But even in Indonesia, he lived a fairly comfortable life. Here in America, he has lived a privileged life, gone to top-notch schools and colleges. And he hasn't even spent enough time around black people to pick up, as one Democratic politician called it, a so-called, quote, Negro dialect. That was Harry Reid, for the record. I, on the other hand, know a little bit about struggle. My family was poor by America's standards, as were many other black, white, Hispanic, and other families that I know. We didn't have many luxuries. We just had the basics. My family had been on food stamps before there was such a thing as an EBT card. For years, we received our monthly allotment of government cheese, rice, boxed potato flakes, powdered milk, and dry cereal from our government taskmasters, in exchange for a small slice of our privacy and a big chunk of our dignity. I know a little bit about struggle. I lived in crime-ridden and poor Rochester, New York neighborhoods. For those who are familiar with the area, I have lived on both the east side and the west side. What does Obama know about the likes of Trayer Street, 4th Street, Holzer Street, Clifford Avenue, Flint Street, Bronson Avenue, Jefferson Avenue, St. Simon's Terrace, Fight Square, Fight Village, and Orleans Street? Those were my hoods. I know a little about struggle. I've endured both racial and gender-based discrimination. I've been sexually harassed, disrespected, spat upon, and called names. I know something about struggle. So, if I have the same sufferings and struggles of other blacks in America, why is my blackness in question? My skin is black, but apparently black skin isn't black enough. My jet black hair is fashioned in locks. And I guess natural black hair is not enough. My lips are full, my nose is wide, my mouth protrudes, and my dress size, full. But for some reason, that is not enough. My mother, black. My father, black. My children, black. My husband, black and fine. So, why is my blackness in question? I will give you a clue. During all the years I voted as a Democrat, I was considered blacker than black. I had been considered a sister, down for the struggle. My skin, my hair, my lips, black, black, black. My blackness was undeniable. But after I realized that I preferred a Republican and conservative form of government and began voting as a Republican, denouncing my allegiance to the Democratic Party, the party of the KKK, Jim Crow, and segregation, suddenly my blackness came under attack. Instead of being considered a sister, many black people began believing I hated my own black skin. Instead of being down for the struggle, many black people started to think I wanted to see black people struggle. By these same people, I have been considered worse than a racist. I have been called a sellout to my people, and Uncle Tom. I have received all that criticism for believing this welfare state impedes economic growth and minimizes opportunity, and that it does not lift people out of poverty, but instead condemns them to it. I have received all that hate from people who share my pigmentation, because I believe our rights come from God and not from government. And I exercise that belief with my vote. I have received all that hate because I believe that our federal, state, and local governments should be as fiscally responsible with other people's money as they expect individuals and businesses to be with their own. And I exercise that belief with my vote. I have received all that name-calling because I vote my values. Nevertheless, although names hurt, they don't define me. I am black because God said it is so. And so it is. And I love my blackness. Yet, apparently, for some reason, blackness has more to do with the DNC than it does with DNA. All this despite overwhelming documented proof of democratic racism, past and present, and an outright disrespect and disregard for the dignity of the black man. So I cannot let groupthink, peer pressure, persecution, or bullying inform my personal decisions and my inclinations. My blackness does not depend upon my political preferences. I am black because God said it is so, and so it is. Well, kudos to you. Providence, you've expressed in writing what, quite frankly, I think a lot of black people think, but don't want a voice because they are afraid of persecution. The truth of the matter is, when you look back at what has happened historically in this nation, we cannot, and I don't care whether you're black or white or Hispanic or Asian or anything else, we cannot point to the salvation of poverty no matter how much money we throw at it. We've spent trillions of dollars since the 1960s and the Great Society and the war on poverty. And what have we accomplished? Nothing. Not one single move. We have more people today in poverty than we did in the 60s. And here we are, 55 years later, we've spent trillions of dollars, and all we've done is effectively strip the revenues from our nation that we could have used for other things, and frankly, there are whole new generations that have grown up in poverty, so we've actually made the problem worse. Because now we've made it multi-generational, but not on its own, but with government motivation and push. That's a sin in anyone's estimation. And it's a shame. With all the money that we've spent and all the outreach and education, if it all was working so well, if the Democrats were really supportive of the black cause, of the downtrodden race, then why is it that they refuse to acknowledge that the vast majority of children that are, I saw statistics the other day that in some cities it's as high as 55% of all the abortions are black. In some places it's 72%. That's genocide. And yet, whatever happened to the rare, safe, and legal? What happened to the principles of rare, safe, and legal? 72% of all abortions in one demographic is anything but rare. And because it cannot possibly be rare, it is therefore not safe. It's not safe for an entire generation. The truth is, you should be no more ostracized for your religious belief, your political beliefs, than you should be for a religious belief. Growing up as a kid, I went to some black churches in our area, and I grew up in New Jersey, so I grew up, with all colors and all shapes and sizes, and I grew up in very, very mixed communities. And I went to black churches that were Baptist churches, and I went to black churches where we stood up on the pews with tambourines, baby. I also went to black churches that were Catholic. I didn't see any of those people ostracizing each other over their religious beliefs. Then, when I got older and the black Muslim movement came forward, I saw a lot of black people migrate to that faith. I don't see anybody in the Christian religion throwing them under the bus, nor do I see anybody in the black Muslim religion throwing the Christians under the bus for their belief. In the black community, I'm talking black to black now. So why is it that you would ostracize someone for their political beliefs based on race? If this is supposed to be tolerance expressed, I'm offended. This isn't tolerance. This is the intolerance of Islam, right? They demand tolerance until they're in the majority, and then try to go over to their country and demand tolerance from them. See how long that lasts. Go over there and be gay. Yeah. You're either going to find yourself with no genitals, or you're going to find yourself with a neck that's about 8 inches longer than it was the day before. All of this you know what it is? It's self-treason. That's exactly what it is. It is self-treason, because what you're doing is you are denying yourself the ability to do what's in your own best interest because of someone else's opinion. And to be honest with you, the people that are espousing that opinion are generally making a living at it. Providence, in this article, exposes the hypocrisy of the left and the progressive liberals and the radical race baiters. And y'all know who they are in both the white and the black community. Here's the point. By reading her article, you turn around and you look back at the landscape, and their hypocrisy and racism shows on them like an ugly bruise. I really am offended by people who will use false pretenses and fake morality and morals to enhance a political agenda. And I'm not just talking about color now. The reason why, I'm going to tell you why. Because 99% of those people who use that false morality and false arguments and false pretenses can't even articulate why they believe what they claim so fervently to espouse. That's the truth. And that goes beyond hypocrisy, and it enters the realm of self-treason. If you cannot justify for me why you think the way you think, if you can't express to me what is so perfect about the Democratic Party that you are willing to throw your own life under the bus, then I just say that you've been indoctrinated and you've been played. You're not the playa you think you are. The truth is, these people who are playing you are well educated with your money. They have studied and practiced at how to deceive and manipulate and alter your thinking. They have utilized propaganda, and they have taken the one area that they know that you're sensitive to, and they've used it as a weapon against you. God said it is so. Some of us are black, some of us are white, some of us are born with hair, some of us without. I mean, some of us have affinities and intelligence or the ability to grasp certain concepts or certain skills. There is no such thing as equality across the board. There never will be, there never has been, and if you're thinking that there's ever some level of equality to be reached, you're inhaling unicorn flatulence. To sell out, to be an Uncle Tom, is preposterous. Why? Because you believe that you've been played and you see it for what it is. Because you believe that it is your right and your ability to have your right of free speech, your right to defend yourself and your family, your right to your privacy, to be just left alone, to be outside of the clutches or the influence or the pressure of government in your life. The truth is, these people who believe that all white people are against them, and the white people who think that all black people are against them, you're both fooling yourselves. The truth is, we have a whole lot more in common than you think. I see people arguing and protesting about the stop and frisk in New York. Of course that's it's ridiculous. I don't care what color you are, black or white, Asian, yellow, makes no difference. The truth of the matter is, if we all carried guns, it would be a heck of a lot more polite society. Is that a dangerous thing to think of? Of course. You know why? Because it's been bred out of us that we cannot be responsible with one. That doesn't make it so. It just means that you've been fooled into thinking that, and there is a certain segment of our population that at this point have gone so far down the road of insanity that they would be dangerous. But for the last 100 years, if everybody was carrying a gun, trust me, it would have been well ingrained into our society that there are certain things that you do and certain things you don't do. The truth of the matter is, politically speaking, the Democrats, and I'm not giving the Republicans some kind of a rise here, because they're not much better. They actually may be more aligned to your civil rights. But to be frank with you, when I turn around and I look at what they're doing to all of our civil rights with the Patriot Act and the NSA spying and all this other nonsense, I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that they don't seek to enslave you. They seek to enslave us all. As do the Democrats. They just approach it from different angles. But it doesn't make any difference whether the slave master comes to you from the right or if he comes to you from the left. A slave master is a slave master, and he does mean to rule. The truth is, Providence sees that. She gets it. And I'm personally pleased to see that she has been so eloquent and able to express and articulate that which she felt. This was heartfelt from her. I know it. I can see it. I can feel it. And this is something that is hurtful to her. To be rejected by your own friends and your own neighbors, your own members in your church, because of your political belief that, quite frankly, is far more insightful and intuitive than theirs. To be self-honest, how does that justify being ostracized? I get it from people who come here from another country and they don't know what life could be like in a country like the United States. And they say, well, I want here what we had there. Well, if it was so wonderful there, why don't you just go back? Would be my first question. But when those people were born here and they learned the same history I learned, and I'm not saying our founders were faultless, and I'm not saying that they were without sin. I am just saying that those were individuals who were willing to, in most cases, even put their own personal best interest aside for the benefit of the whole. And they did it in a way that we don't see today. We don't have a single politician that's worthy. All they're interested in is how can they subjugate you. Black, white, red, or yellow. We'll be right back. You're listening to America's Voice.